The conference room aboard the massive alien ship buzzed with excitement. Representatives from dozens of star systems sat around a curved table that stretched across the entire chamber. At the far end, Park Dae-ho adjusted his simple gray suit and smiled politely at the creatures surrounding him. Park was Earth's chief ambassador, a quiet man with gentle eyes who had spent 3 years negotiating this moment. Today, humanity would officially join the Galactic Confederation. The aliens thought they knew exactly what they were getting. Another peaceful farming world to help feed their empire. The humans are so soft, whispered General Vextar, the Confederation's military commander. His forearms crossed over his massive chest as he stared at Park with obvious disgust. Vextar's species, the Krathari, had conquered 12 star systems through pure military might. To him, Park looked like prey. Kim So-jin sat beside Park, taking careful notes on her tablet. As Earth's cultural attaché, she had watched these negotiations for months. She noticed how the aliens barely looked at the human delegation. They spoke about Earth like it was already theirs, discussing which crops humans should grow and how much food they expected to receive. "Ambassador Park," said Chancellor Morden, the Confederation's leader, "your species will make excellent farmers. We have identified 17 worlds where your people can settle and grow food for our armies." Park nodded and smiled. "We are honored to serve the Confederation in this way. Humans have always been good at growing things." Behind his calm expression, Park was thinking about something else entirely. On Earth's moon, Director Lee Min-ho was watching this meeting through hidden cameras. Lee ran something the aliens knew nothing about: Earth's true military program. While Park played the role of a peaceful farmer, Lee commanded humanity's real face. The treaty signing took 4 hours. Each alien representative signed with great ceremony, making speeches about how generous they were to accept such a weak species into their confederation. They talked about humans like pets that might be useful for simple tasks. "Your ships are so small," laughed Admiral Kexthu, pointing at the images of Earth's exploration vessels. "Do you even have weapons?" Park chuckled softly. "We prefer to grow things rather than destroy them. War has never been our way." This was not exactly a lie. The humans the aliens had met were indeed peaceful farmers and scientists. But they were only seeing part of the picture. Earth had made sure of that. Dr. Yoon Hae-won was one of the humans the aliens had met during first contact. She was a real scientist who studied plants and had helped design better farming methods for harsh worlds. When the aliens met her, they saw exactly what they expected: a gentle human who wanted to help feed the galaxy. What they did not know was that Dr. Yoon also spent her free time studying alien biology. She knew how every species in the Confederation breathed, what they ate, and what could kill them. This information was not for farming. "The Confederation will protect you," announced General Vextar, his voice full of mock kindness. "Weak species like yours need strong guardians. In return, you will grow food and stay out of our way when we fight our enemies." Kim So-jin translated this for the human team, though they all understood the alien languages perfectly. Earth had been studying the Confederation for 50 years, ever since their first radio signals reached human space. Humanity had plenty of time to prepare. The treaty was beautiful, written on metal sheets in gold letters. It promised peace, cooperation, and mutual benefit. The aliens were getting a farming world. The humans were getting something much more valuable: time. As the ceremony ended, Park shook hands with dozens of alien leaders. Each one squeezed his soft human hand and made jokes about how fragile humans seemed. They promised to send teachers to show humans how to be good servants. "Your species will be safe under our protection," said Chancellor Morden, patting Park's shoulder like he was petting a dog. "Just grow food and stay peaceful. Leave the fighting to real warriors." Park bowed politely. "We understand our place in the galaxy." But on Earth's moon, Director Lee Min-ho was having a very different conversation. He stood in a massive underground facility that the aliens had never seen. Thousands of humans worked at computer stations, monitoring every alien communication, studying every alien weapon, and preparing for something the Confederation could not imagine. "How long do we have?" asked Colonel Nam Tae-sung, one of Lee's top officers. Lee looked at the screen showing alien fleet movements across the galaxy. "Maybe 10 years. Maybe less. Something is coming from the outer rim. Our deep space sensors have detected energy signatures unlike anything in Confederation space. And when it arrives, then they'll learn why we really signed this treaty," Lee said quietly. They think they're getting farmers. They have no idea what humans become when we're hunting. Back on the alien ship, the celebration continued. The aliens drank strange liquors and made toasts about their new agricultural servants. They planned which human settlements to visit first and how much food to demand. Park and his team returned to their small Earth ship, still playing their roles perfectly. As they traveled back to human space, Kim So-jin finally allowed herself to smile. "They really think we're harmless," she said. Park nodded. "That's exactly what we wanted them to think. Earth's best farmers are getting ready to meet their new alien friends. Our best scientists are preparing to share human agricultural knowledge. And our other people? They're getting ready too," Park said softly. "The Confederation wants to meet Earth's farmers. Let's hope they never need to meet our hunters." As Earth's small ship headed home, the aliens continued their celebration. They had no idea that humanity's greatest strength was not in being peaceful, but in choosing when not to be. They had no idea that every human they had met was real, but that they had not met every kind of human. Most importantly, they had no idea that something was watching from the darkness between stars, something that would soon teach the Confederation the difference between being weak and choosing to be gentle. The treaty was signed. The trap was set, and in the depths of space, ancient sensors detected movement from the galactic rim, something vast and hungry heading their way. 3 months after the treaty signing, the first alarm came from the Kepler system on the galaxy's edge. Admiral Choi Sung-min was reviewing crop reports from human colonies when the emergency signal reached Confederation headquarters. "Unknown vessels detected," the message said. "Large bioships moving at impossible speeds. They're not responding to our communications." Admiral Choi was the Confederation's best military strategist. He had fought in dozens of wars and never lost a single battle. But when he saw the first images from Kepler, something cold settled in his stomach. The ships were alive, massive creatures the size of moons with skin that rippled and changed color. They moved through space like sharks through water, completely silent except for a strange humming that made Confederation sensors malfunction. "Send the Fourth Fleet to investigate," ordered General Vextar from his command center, probably just another primitive species trying to look scary. The Fourth Fleet was the Confederation's pride, 200 warships with enough firepower to destroy entire planets. Admiral Nalthos led them toward Kepler with complete confidence. They never returned. Dr. Yoon Hai-wan was in her laboratory on Earth when the news reached human space. She was working on new crop varieties just like the aliens expected. But when her computer showed her the Confederation's emergency broadcasts, she stopped everything. The images were terrible. Kepler Station was gone along with its 10 million inhabitants. The bioships had not simply destroyed it, they had absorbed it. The metal was gone. The people were gone. Even the asteroids in the system were missing. "They eat everything," Dr. Yoon whispered, studying the readings. "Metal, organic matter, energy. They consume it all and use it to grow stronger." On Earth's moon, Director Lee Min-ho watched the same reports with growing concern. His analysts worked frantically to understand what they were seeing. "The bioships are learning," reported Lieutenant Oh Soo-bin. "Every time the Confederation shoots at them, they adapt. Laser weapons work once, then the creatures develop shields. Missiles work for a few minutes, then the ships learn to catch them and throw them back." Lee nodded grimly. "And they're getting bigger." "Yes, sir. Each battle makes them stronger. They absorb the Confederation ships and add their mass to their own bodies." The second attack came at the Ross system. This time, General Vextar led the defense personally with the Confederation's entire First Army. He brought 500 ships and the galaxy's most advanced weapons. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, Vextar was running for his life in a single escape pod, his massive fleet completely gone. The bioships had learned from their first encounter and adapted to every weapon the Confederation used. "They're not just animals," Vextar reported, his voice shaking. "They're intelligent. They communicate with each other instantly across impossible distances. When one learns something, they all learn it." The creatures had a name for themselves, the Confederation discovered. The few survivors called them the Devourer Swarm. They had existed since before most galactic civilizations began, sleeping in the dark spaces between galaxies. Something had awakened them and driven them toward Confederation space. Dr. Yoon spent her days analyzing every piece of data about the swarm. What she found made her blood run cold. The creatures did not just kill. They absorbed the knowledge and memories of everything they consumed. Each victory made them smarter and more dangerous. They've been doing this for millions of years, she told Director Lee during a secret video call. They travel from galaxy to galaxy, consuming everything, then moving on when there's nothing left to eat. How many civilizations have they destroyed? All of them, Dr. Yoon said quietly. Every galaxy they visited is now empty space. The Confederation's panic was growing. System after system fell to the swarm. Each defeat taught the creatures new tricks and gave them more resources. Their bioships grew larger and spawned smaller hunting vessels that could chase down fleeing survivors. Admiral Choi found himself commanding a fighting retreat across half the galaxy. His forces were shrinking every day while the swarm grew stronger. The creatures had learned to mimic Confederation technology and were now building hybrid ships that combined organic adaptability with mechanical weapons. We need a new strategy, Choi told the emergency council meeting. Everything we've tried has failed. The swarm learns from our attacks and becomes immune to them. Chancellor Mordun looked older than his 600 years. What do you suggest? We've thrown our entire military at these creatures and they've consumed everything we've sent. Maybe we should ask for help, suggested Admiral Nalthos, one of the few high-ranking officers to survive contact with the swarm. There are other species in the galaxy. Perhaps someone knows how to fight these things. General Vextar laughed bitterly. Who could possibly help us? We have the strongest military in known space. If we can't stop them, no one can. What about the humans? Asked Admiral Choi quietly. The room fell silent. The human colonies had been sending food to refugee camps and offering to take in evacuees from destroyed systems. They seemed genuinely concerned about the Confederation's problems, but what could farmers do against creatures that had destroyed entire battle fleets? The humans are farmers, said Vextar. They don't even have a real military. What could they possibly do that we haven't tried? But Admiral Choi was thinking about something strange he had noticed. Human colonies were not running from the swarm like everyone else. They were evacuating non-essential personnel, but they were not abandoning their worlds. It was almost like they were preparing for something. The final blow came at the Centauri system, where the Confederation had established their emergency command center. The swarm arrived in overwhelming numbers, bioships the size of planets supported by thousands of smaller hunter-killers. The battle was hopeless from the start. The creatures had learned every Confederation tactic and developed counters for every weapon. They moved like a coordinated organism, anticipating every defensive move before it happened. As his command ship exploded around him, General Vextar made a decision that would have been unthinkable 3 months earlier. He opened a communication channel to Earth and did something no Confederation military leader had ever done. "Human command," he said, his voice breaking with desperation. "This is General Vextar of the Galactic Confederation. We need your help. Our military is destroyed. Our planets are dying. The swarm is consuming everything." He paused, watching bioships tear apart the last Confederation defenses. "Please," he whispered. "We're begging you. Help us." On Earth, Park Dae-ho received the message in his office. The gentle ambassador looked at the screen for a long moment, then picked up a secure phone and dialed a number the aliens had never seen. "Director Lee," he said quietly. "They're asking for help." "I know," came the reply. "Are our people ready?" Park looked out his window at the peaceful farmlands below, where humans tended their crops under blue skies. Somewhere beyond the horizon, other humans were making very different preparations. "Yes," he said. "They're ready." The emergency session of the Galactic Council took place on Sanctuary Station, one of the few safe locations left in Confederation space. General Vextar sat at the table with the other surviving military leaders, their faces showing the strain of constant defeat. When the human delegation arrived, the aliens barely looked up. Park Dae-ho entered the chamber wearing the same simple gray suit he had worn during treaty negotiations. Behind him walked Kim So-jin and Dr. Yoon Hae-won, looking exactly like the gentle farmers and scientists the aliens remembered, but there was something different in their eyes today. "Thank you for coming," said Chancellor Mordun, his voice heavy with exhaustion. "We know humans are not warriors, but perhaps your scientific knowledge could help us understand these creatures." Park took his seat and folded his hands on the table. "Before we discuss the swarm, I need to make something clear. The human delegation you've been dealing with represents only part of our species. Admiral Choi raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? I mean, said a new voice from the chamber entrance, that you've never met Earth's real military. The aliens turned to see a woman entering the room. She wore black military clothing covered in patches they did not recognize. Her name was President Kang Ji-woo, and she carried herself like someone who had seen real combat. I am Earth's actual leader, she announced, taking a seat beside Park. Ambassador Park represents our diplomatic and agricultural communities. I represent everyone else. General Vextar looked confused. Everyone else? The hunters, President Kang said simply. Behind her, more humans entered the chamber. These were not farmers. Colonel Nam Tae-sung moved like a predator, his eyes constantly scanning for threats. Captain Yang Minji wore body armor that seemed designed for stealth rather than protection. Major Lim Dong-hyun carried weapons the aliens had never seen before. I don't understand, said Chancellor Morden. Your species is peaceful. You told us war was not your way, Park smiled gently. War is not our preferred way, but that doesn't mean we're incapable of it. President Kang activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. Images of human facilities appeared, massive underground complexes, training centers, weapons factories that had been hidden beneath Earth's peaceful farms. While our farmers were growing crops, she explained, our military was growing something else. Soldiers who specialize in fighting enemies that conventional forces cannot defeat. The aliens stared at images of human warriors training in environments that looked like nightmares. These humans moved differently than the farmers they had met. They were faster, stronger, and their eyes held something the aliens had never seen in a peaceful species. The look of apex predators, we call them the Apex Predator Corps, said Colonel Nam. Every human civilization in our history has produced warriors like these. We simply decided to make them better. But why hide this from us? Asked Admiral Choi. Because, said President Kang, peaceful farmers are not threatening to galactic powers. But humans who specialize in hunting down and killing the galaxy's worst monsters tend to make people nervous. Captain Yang stepped forward and activated another display. The Confederation military fights with honor. You follow rules of engagement. You try to minimize casualties and protect civilians. This is admirable, but it's not how you fight something like the Devourer swarm. The display showed human combat doctrine. Unlike Confederation tactics, which focused on direct confrontation and overwhelming firepower, human strategy was based on patience, deception, and psychological warfare. We studied every war in human history, explained Major Lim. The most successful predators are not the strongest or fastest. They are the ones who understand their prey and use that knowledge to create fear. Dr. Yoon stood up, no longer playing the role of a simple scientist. I've been analyzing the swarm for months. They're powerful, but they have weaknesses. They rely on their ability to adapt and learn from each encounter. But what happens when you feed them false information? She brought up detailed biological scans of the swarm creatures. They absorb knowledge through physical contact with their victims. If we can control what they learn, we can turn their greatest strength against them. The aliens looked at each other uncertainly. This was not the help they had expected from peaceful farmers. You're talking about psychological warfare, said Admiral Choi slowly, about deliberately losing battles to mislead them. We're talking about hunting, corrected Lieutenant Commander Oh Soo-bin, who had entered with the military group. When humans hunt dangerous prey, we don't charge at it with spears. We study it. We learn its habits. We set traps. President Kang leaned forward. The Confederation has been fighting the swarm like warriors. Honorably, directly, bravely. But the swarm isn't a warrior enemy. It's a predator that sees you as prey. So what do you propose? Asked General Vextar. We propose to show them what real predators look like, said Colonel Nam. Humans didn't evolve as farmers, General. We evolved as persistence hunters who could chase prey across continents and never give up. We learned to work together to bring down creatures much larger and stronger than ourselves. Captain Yang activated another display showing human evolutionary history. The aliens saw images of early humans hunting massive creatures using nothing but intelligence, coordination, and relentless determination. Our ancestors killed things that should have been impossible to kill, she explained. They did it by being smarter, more patient, and more ruthless than their prey. We've simply scaled that up to work in space. The chamber fell silent as the aliens absorbed this information. The gentle farmers they had been dealing with were real, but they were only one face of humanity. These warriors represented something much more dangerous. The swarm learns from each battle, said Dr. Yoon, but they can only learn what we let them learn. If we feed them carefully chosen information, we can make them predictable. And once something is predictable, it can be hunted. President Kang stood up. The Confederation has been asking the wrong question. You've been asking how to defeat the swarm in battle. The correct question is how to make them afraid. How to turn them from hunters into prey. Admiral Choi stared at the humans with new understanding. You're not offering to help us fight them. You're offering to hunt them. That's correct, said President Kang, but you need to understand what that means. Human hunters don't follow Confederation rules of warfare. We don't protect enemy civilians. We don't show mercy to threats that won't show mercy to us. She looked around the table at each alien representative. When humans hunt something to extinction, we are very thorough. The swarm will not be the first species to learn this lesson. General Vextar felt a chill run down his spine. What exactly are you asking us to do? Give us command of all remaining Confederation forces, said President Kang. Let us coordinate the defense of your remaining worlds. And prepare yourself to see a side of warfare that your civilizations have never experienced. Colonel Nam smiled, and for the first time, the aliens understood why prey animals feared the sight of a predator's teeth. The swarm has been hunting you, he said quietly. Now it's our turn to hunt them. Admiral Jang Hyun-woo stood on the bridge of the human command ship Silent Hunter, watching the Devourer swarm tear apart another Confederation outpost. Unlike Confederation admirals, he made no move to intervene. Instead, he observed and took notes. Bioship 7 is adapting to kinetic weapons, reported Commander Shin Bo-ra from her stealth reconnaissance vessel. Full immunity achieved in 17 minutes. They're learning faster than before. Admiral Jang nodded. This was exactly what he wanted to see. For 3 weeks, human forces had been watching the swarm destroy Confederation positions while carefully studying every detail of their behavior. Any emotional responses? He asked. Negative, replied Commander Shin. They show no fear, no anger, no hesitation. They approach each battle like a feeding opportunity. This was the swarm's strength, but Admiral Jang was beginning to see how it could become their weakness. Creatures that felt no fear had never learned to recognize when they should be afraid. Major Lim Dong-hyun coordinated the Psychological Warfare Division from a hidden base in the asteroid belt. His teams had been busy for weeks, creating false information for the swarm to absorb. Operation False Memory is ready, he reported to Admiral Jang. We've prepared 17 fake Confederation battle plans, each with deliberate weaknesses the swarm can exploit. And the volunteers? Major Lim's expression grew grim. 43 Confederation officers have agreed to carry the false information. They understand they probably won't survive the encounter. The plan was simple but brutal. Human psychologists had determined that the swarm learned by absorbing the memories and knowledge of their victims. If they could control what the swarm learned, they could begin to predict its behavior. Captain Bae Jun-ho led the first test of this strategy. His ship, disguised as a Confederation vessel, approached a swarm patrol carrying carefully prepared false intelligence about human agricultural colonies. The bioships consumed Captain Bae's ship exactly as expected. But unknown to the swarm, every piece of information they absorbed had been designed by human military psychologists. They learned that humans were helpless farmers hiding in specific locations, using predictable defensive strategies. None of it was true. The bait is taken, reported Captain Bae from his hidden escape pod. Bioship 3 just changed course toward the Tau Ceti system, exactly as we predicted. Dr. Han Yuri worked from a secret laboratory developing humanity's most disturbing weapons. Unlike Confederation forces, which tried to destroy the swarm quickly, her team focused on making them suffer. The bioagent is ready, she reported to Admiral Jang. It won't kill them immediately. Instead, it will make them weak and confused over several days. More importantly, it will make them afraid. The weapon was based on human understanding of biochemistry and psychology. The swarm had never encountered an enemy that attacked their emotional state, rather than their physical bodies. They had no defenses against fear because they had never needed any. Commander Oh Subin led the first deployment of the bioagent. Her stealth ships approached a swarm feeding ground and released microscopic particles into space. The particles were designed to be absorbed along with the regular matter the swarm consumed. Contact in 36 hours, she reported. If this works, we should see behavioral changes within 72 hours. While the bioagent worked, other human teams began the largest intelligence operation in galactic history. Every human agricultural colony was secretly equipped with sensors and communication arrays. The peaceful farmers the aliens knew were real, but they were also unwitting intelligence gatherers. Lieutenant Park Jimin coordinated the sensor network from Earth's moon. We now have real-time data on swarm movements across 47 systems. They're following the false intelligence we fed them, but they're also showing signs of the bioagent's effects. The first indication that the plan was working came from the Tau Ceti system. The swarm bioship that had absorbed Captain Bay's false intelligence arrived expecting to find helpless human farmers. Instead, it found empty planets and a trap. Target is showing confusion, reported Commander Shin from her observation post. It's scanning the system repeatedly like it can't understand why the intelligence was wrong. Admiral Zhang smiled. This was the first time anyone had seen a swarm creature display uncertainty. They were beginning to learn that their absorbed knowledge might not be reliable. The bioagent's effects became apparent 3 days later. Swarm bioships began moving erratically, approaching targets with hesitation instead of their usual confidence. Some actually retreated from battles they should have won easily. They're experiencing fear, confirmed Dr. Han from her analysis of the swarm's behavior patterns. The bioagent is triggering emotional responses they've never felt before. They don't know how to process the sensation. Major Kim Woo-jin led hunter-killer teams that specialized in psychological terrorism. Unlike Confederation forces, which destroyed swarm vessels completely, his teams left survivors specifically to spread fear through the swarm collective. We crippled Bioship 12 but left it alive, he reported after a successful raid. The surviving organism should carry news of human capabilities back to the main swarm. The message Kim's team sent was carefully calculated. They wanted the swarm to know that humans were dangerous, but not to understand exactly how dangerous. Fear was most effective when combined with uncertainty. Captain Yang Minji coordinated with remaining Confederation forces, teaching them human hunting tactics. The aliens struggled with concepts that violated everything they believed about honorable warfare. "You want us to run away?" asked Admiral Choi during a strategy meeting. "We want you to lead them into a trap," Yang corrected. "Confederation forces are the bait. You draw them to specific locations where human forces can study them under controlled conditions." The strategy required Confederation officers to suppress every instinct that made them good soldiers. Instead of standing and fighting, they had to retreat in patterns designed to make the swarm overconfident. "This is hard for my people," admitted Admiral Choi, running. "From battle goes against everything we've been trained to do." "I understand," said Captain Yang, "but you're not running from battle. You're leading prey into a killing ground." The human strategy began showing results after 6 weeks. Swarm forces were becoming increasingly unpredictable as the bioagent affected their decision-making. They started making tactical errors, approaching battles with hesitation, and sometimes retreating when they should have pressed their advantage. More importantly, they were beginning to fear humanity. Bioship 7 just detected human energy signatures and immediately changed course to avoid us, reported Commander Shin with satisfaction. "They're starting to recognize us as a threat." Admiral Zhang studied the tactical displays showing swarm movements across the galaxy. The creatures were still powerful and dangerous, but they were no longer the unstoppable force that had terrorized the Confederation. "Phase 2 is ready," he announced to his command staff. "All human forces report prepared for Operation Final Hunt." Lieutenant Commander Osubin looked up from her station. "Sir, the swarm has gathered their remaining forces in the Vega system. Looks like they're preparing for a major offensive." Admiral Zhang nodded. The swarm was reacting exactly as human psychologists had predicted. When pack hunters felt threatened, they gathered together for mutual protection. This instinct had served them well for millions of years. Today it would be their doom. "Send word to all human forces," Admiral Zhang ordered. "The prey has gathered in one location. It's time to finish the hunt." The Vega system had become a fortress of living ships. Thousands of devourer bioships clustered around the system's star, their organic hulls pulsing with nervous energy. For the first time in their species' history, they had gathered not to attack but to defend. Admiral Zhang Hyun-woo watched the massive swarm fleet from the bridge of Silent Hunter. The human task force had arrived at the edge of the system, but they made no move to attack. Instead, they simply waited. All bioships are accounted for, reported Commander Shin Bora. Intelligence estimates 97% of the remaining swarm is gathered here. Perfect, said Admiral Zhang. Open a communication channel to the entire system. All frequencies. The message that broadcast across Vega reached not only the swarm, but every Confederation vessel monitoring the battle. Admiral Zhang's voice was calm and clear as he delivered humanity's final statement. Devourer Swarm, he began. You came to our galaxy as predators. You believed you were the apex hunters, that nothing could challenge your supremacy. You forgot that this galaxy already had apex predators. Inside the swarm fleet, bioships stirred uneasily. The creatures had learned to fear human energy signatures, and now they were surrounded by them. For millions of years, you have consumed entire civilizations. You absorbed their knowledge, their technology, their lives. You showed no mercy because you believed mercy was weakness. President Kang Ji-woo appeared on screens throughout the Confederation fleet. She stood in the command center on Earth's moon, surrounded by displays showing human forces positioned throughout the galaxy. Today you will learn what mercy actually means, she continued. Mercy is not weakness. Mercy is a choice made by those strong enough to destroy you, but wise enough to offer alternatives. Major Kim Woo-jin led the revelation of humanity's true strategy. For months, every retreat, every defeat, every desperate escape had been carefully orchestrated. The swarm had not been winning battles. They had been led into the largest trap in galactic history. Every system you consumed was poisoned, Kim announced as his teams activated hidden devices throughout Confederation space. Every piece of technology you absorbed contained dormant human programming. Every bioship you created using stolen knowledge was built with our back doors. The swarm's confident movements suddenly became frantic as their own technology turned against them. Bioships found their organic systems failing as human computer viruses activated in their stolen Confederation tech. The harder they tried to adapt, the worse the infections became. Commander Oh Soo-bin coordinated the technical aspects of humanity's trap. All dormant systems are active. The swarm's adaptive capabilities are being overwhelmed by contradictory programming. They can't evolve fast enough to counter all the attacks simultaneously. Dr. Han Yuri watched as her bioagents reached their final stage. The creatures that had never known fear were now experiencing pure terror as their own bodies betrayed them. But this was only the beginning. Phase 3 is active, she reported. The psychological conditioning is complete. They now understand what it feels like to be prey. The swarm tried to flee Vega, but human hunter-killer teams were waiting at every exit point. Captain Bae Junho led squadrons of ships that had been hiding in the system for weeks, invisible to swarm sensors. Bioship 12 is attempting to escape through the asteroid field, he reported. Intercept successful. Target disabled but not destroyed. This was the key to humanity's strategy. They were not trying to destroy the swarm quickly. They were systematically demonstrating that escape was impossible, that resistance was futile, and that the humans controlled every aspect of the battle. Admiral Park Ji-sung broadcast the next phase of humanity's message. You are experiencing something new, he told the trapped swarm. For the first time in your species' existence, you are outmatched. You are cornered. You are afraid. The bioships clustered tighter together, seeking comfort in numbers, but human psychologists had predicted this behavior and prepared accordingly. Your fear is justified, continued Admiral Park. We have studied you for months. We know how you think, how you move, how you adapt. We have counters for every strategy you might attempt. Lieutenant Commander Lee So-hyun revealed the scope of humanity's intelligence operation. We have been inside your collective consciousness since the first battle. Every piece of false information we fed you, every trap we set, every weakness we exploited, all of it was based on knowledge we gained by studying your absorbed memories. The swarm had thought they were learning about their enemies by consuming them. They had no idea that humans had been using this process to learn about the swarm. We turned your greatest strength into our greatest advantage, Lee explained. Your ability to share knowledge instantly across your entire species meant that when we contaminated one bioship's information, we contaminated all of them. Colonel Nam Tae-sung delivered the next revelation. Every battle you won was a battle we allowed you to win. Every system you consumed was a system we chose to sacrifice. You were never hunting us. You were following a trail of breadcrumbs we laid out for you. The Confederation forces watching the battle were as stunned as the swarm. They had believed their defeats were real, their losses genuine. Learning that humanity had orchestrated the entire war was almost as shocking as watching the swarms collapse. But we are not monsters. President Kang's voice cut through the chaos. Unlike you, we do not consume entire species for sustenance. We are offering you something you never offered your victims: a choice. The massive swarm fleet had been reduced to a handful of damaged bioships. Their organic hulls were failing, their adaptive systems overwhelmed, their collective consciousness fragmenting under the assault of human psychological warfare. You have two options, President Kang continued. The first is extinction. We have demonstrated that we can destroy your entire species. Our weapons are already in place. Our plans are already executed. You exist only because we choose to let you exist. Captain Yang Minji coordinated the demonstration of this threat. Human ships throughout the galaxy activated weapon systems that had been hidden for months. The energy signatures were enough to sterilize entire star systems. The second option is exile, President Kang said. We will provide you with one ship and enough resources to leave our galaxy. You will never return. You will never threaten any civilization in this galaxy again. The silence that followed was deafening. For the first time in millions of years, the Devourer swarm was completely at the mercy of another species. A single bioship detached itself from the swarm cluster. It approached the human fleet slowly, its organic hull pulsing with what sensors identified as distress signals. When it spoke, the voice was unlike anything the creatures had used before. Quiet, uncertain, afraid. We do not understand, it said. Why do you offer this choice? We would not have shown mercy to you. Ambassador Park Dae-ho answered, his gentle farmer's voice carrying across the system. That is exactly why we are offering it. Mercy is not about what you deserve. Mercy is about who we choose to be. President Kang delivered humanity's final judgment. We are not peaceful because we are weak. We are peaceful because we know exactly how dangerous we are. We chose to be farmers and scientists and diplomats because we could choose to be something else. She paused, letting the words sink in. Today, we chose to be hunters. Tomorrow, we choose to be merciful. The galaxy will be safe because we made both choices possible. The swarm's response was barely a whisper. We accept exile. Admiral Jang watched as human engineers began constructing a basic ship for the swarm's journey. It would be enough to carry the few remaining creatures out of the galaxy, but not enough to threaten anyone. Remember this lesson, he told them. When you reach whatever distant galaxy you choose as your new home, remember that mercy is not weakness. Remember that the most dangerous predators are those who choose when to hunt. As the swarm's exile ship departed Confederation space, the aliens began to understand what had really happened. Humanity had not just defeated an impossible enemy, they had done it while maintaining their moral principles. General Vextar spoke for the entire Confederation. When he asked the question that would define human-alien, relations forever, what are you? Ambassador Park smiled the same gentle smile he had worn during treaty negotiations. We are farmers. We are scientists. We are diplomats. We are teachers and artists and builders. He paused, watching the swarm's ship disappear into the distance. And when the galaxy needs us to be, we are the monsters that make the real monsters afraid. The Confederation would never see humanity the same way again, but perhaps that was the point. The galaxy was safe because its most dangerous predators had chosen to tend gardens instead of hunting grounds. Until something came along that threatened those gardens.